Come on, Supervisor. Take it.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for a very nice day for this event we're about to have. I ask your blessings on this occasion, Lord, and for all those that came out today, and also for our special guests. We'd like to ask you, Lord, to be with the storm victims and their families from the recent storms that we just had. Thankful, Lord, for all the firefighters, law enforcement, and EMS that are out there protecting us, Lord. Thank you, especially, Lord, for our veterans, those who are still serving to help keep us free. And that's the reason that we're here today, Lord, and thank you for us being able to be here. Thank you again for your son, Jesus, especially on this weekend as we celebrate Easter. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets right there, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today, supporting us on the undertaking of a project like this. It's basically like putting a giant puzzle together. The first piece was an idea. We came up with an idea last year. We started working on ways to get it going. First step was contact the town of Decatur. Next piece of the puzzle was finding a location. With the help of the county of Decatur and Sam Bounds, we were able to acquire this location that y'all standing on now.
On behalf of the Greater Decatur Chamber of Commerce, I would also like to welcome you to this Veterans Memorial Park groundbreaking ceremony. Thank you, Johnny, for asking the Chamber to be a part of this special occasion. This wonderful idea has now become reality, giving Decatur and Newton County the opportunity to commemorate the military service of the men and women of Newton County. Newton County supports our men and women that is presently serving or has served in our armed forces and will continue to. Soldiers that come from the silent generation came back home, married, went to school, or entered the workforce. Now we have the shoulders from the baby boom generation and the Generation X soldiers. What a great place we have started here today to honor all these men and women that have proudly served our great country. The towns of Decatur, Hickory, and Chunky, the cities of Newton and Union, and all the citizens of Newton County need a place to recognize our veterans. Every brick with a name will have a story. Growing up in Decatur, I heard a lot of stories. Just like most of you have here have heard stories also. J.W. Thrash would tell me his story of his time in the Navy. My father-in-law, Edward C. Huey, would tell me about his time at Normandy Beach and swimming in the English Channel. We all have heard stories from our veterans. This Veterans Memorial Park will be the lasting reminder of these stories. I encourage the veterans here today and so many others to please tell your story. Let's not forget who this Newton County Veterans Memorial Park represents. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Marshall. I'm the mayor here in Decatur and would like to thank everybody for showing up today for this groundbreaking event at the Veterans Memorial. Also, in addition, right off the bat, let's thank our military servicemen for their service and what they've done for the country. The development of this is, as Johnny was saying earlier, him coming to the board meeting and bringing this idea to the board and to the town to develop this. This was a big thing for me. My family, I had my father, my stepfather, my uncle were all Air Force fighter pilots during World War II. My nephew was a F-18 fighter pilot during the Gulf War. So we've got a long tradition in the family. I was the one that skipped. My brother and I skipped over. Hindsight's 2020. I wish I had joined it back then, but I'm thankful that they did it, and I try and stand up for anything for the military. Seeing what it's done for America and my particular family. So when Johnny brought this up to us, we looked at several different spots around town. We looked at further up in the industrial park. Just could not picture this in my head being any other place. So I reached out to Sam Bounds and his family, and was able to work a deal with Sam to acquire this piece of property for the memorial. This is the best location for it. I want to thank you guys for doing what you did, selling the property, and by the way, heavily discounting the property for the town to get. Anyway, this is going to be a great spot. I know personally I can think of 8 family members that are all from Newton County. I've been dragging Johnny and I were talking about this the other day. I hadn't bought my brick yet. Like I said, I know I've got at least 8 family members that were involved in Newton County that I can get a brick for. So I'm going to make sure I get mine done. So keep that in mind, everybody, you know, as you're walking around and you're talking to your neighbors. Remind them what we're doing here. Remind them that this is for our veterans, to show respect to our veterans. So anyway, I appreciate everybody showing up today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today as a member of Post 89 American Legion. First off, I want to commend Commander Johnny Reeves and the other volunteers of Post 89 for putting this function together and the hard work y'all put into it. And I'd like to give all of them a round of applause. Johnny's really stepped up. When he came up with this idea, I thought to myself, you know, he don't know what he's getting into, and he's probably thinking the same thing right now, because you don't spearhead a project like this and you just accomplish it in a few weeks or a few months even. But we've had a lot of great support, as the mayor said, from the property owners, Sam Bounds, to the town of Decatur, the chamber, and everybody's really pitched in and tried to make this work, and I think it's going to be something we'll be very proud of in the future. My job of being up here at the moment is to recognize our guest speaker, one of our guest speakers today. More hairspray if I'd known the wind was going to be this way. It's got both my hairs out of place, but I apologize. One of our guest speakers today has come over on behalf of Stacey Pickering's Office of Mississippi Veterans Affairs Division, and he's the Deputy Executive Director of the Mississippi Veterans Affairs Board, Mr. Dusty Culpepper. So we'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Randy, very much. And Mr. Reeves, I also do applaud you for stepping out and doing this. It's truly an honor to be a part of the groundbreaking of the Newton County Veterans Memorial Park. You know, some of the finest people that I know are from Newton County, and so again, it's just an honor to be here to represent Mr. Pickering. Mr. Pickering had a family event that took him to the Atlanta area, so he regrets not being able to be here. I will ask you though, while you're there, take out your phones, your smartphones. And I know you got them. I know you got them. We don't leave home without them. And on your social media choice, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go to Mississippi Veteran Affairs and make sure that you follow us, because we could certainly partner with you on events like this to get the word out, and that's something that our agency would like to do. It's follow Mississippi Veteran Affairs, and I want to take this opportunity to recognize Tommy Strickland. Where's Tommy at? He's a big one. There he is in the back. He's our Veteran Service Officer, our State Veteran Service Officer, and he's in our Meridian office. And we're just glad that Tommy could be here. Tommy has some some Vietnam books, but that's over in the post after this is over with. So why do we do this? Why are memorials important? You know, one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and I didn't come here to preach, but if somebody wants to pass around a hat, we certainly wouldn't send the money back. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is in the book of Joshua, and it's Joshua the 3rd chapter, and he was leading the children of Israel, which was about 2 million people, and they came on their way to the Promised Land, and they came to the banks of the Jordan River. And to make a long story short, God told Joshua that he was going to do something great right in front of his eyes. And Joshua commanded the priests to take up the Ark of the Covenant that they were carrying, and take a few steps into the Jordan River and to stop. And when their feet hit the Jordan River, just a few miles up the riverbed, the Jordan River dried, and they crossed on dry ground. Over 2 million people. It was a miracle, truly a miracle. But the story doesn't stop there, and I think the significance of that doesn't stop there, although that's amazing. What was significant was what was happened in the next chapter when Joshua chose a person from every one of the 12 tribes to go get a stone, to get a rock, a huge rock, and to place it at the camp to mark the event. And of course the people said, why are we doing this? And his answer was so important. He said that one day your children will ask, what do these stones mean? And you can answer, this is where the Israelites crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the riverbed just like he did in the Red Sea. See, because Joshua knew that those people would forget. They would forget about that monumental occasion. And it's days like today where we place memorials out in public that makes us think, talk, and ask questions. And it's not just to reflect on things, although that's important. It's important to talk about the cost of our freedom. We need to hear those stories about Normandy. We need to hear those stories about Omaha Beach. And that is why our agency is passionate about the service of our 192,000 veterans in our state, and the 600 that we take care of in our 4 veterans homes, and the 800 that we have buried in the cemetery, one that's right down the road. We need to tell their story. My kids need to hear the story of their sacrifice. But even more important, they need to hear about the dedicated men and women whose names will appear on these bricks. You see, I joined the Air National Guard at the age of 35, just 7 years ago, because I would see my grandfather swell up with pride when he talked about his time in the Navy on the USS Intrepid. One of my life's biggest accomplishments was getting my 80-year-old grandfather on a plane and to go back to that ship in New York City for its 80th birthday in August of 2015. But he told me, he said, I'll go, but there's two stipulations for me to go. One, I had to find him a recliner that he could sleep in, because he hadn't slept in a bed in years. And you'd think, as big as New York and Manhattan is, that request, you could find a recliner somewhere, a hotel with a recliner. But after a month of looking at $200 delivery charge, we finally found a recliner to put in the Courtyard in Marriott in Queens, New York. So I checked that one off the list. And the other stipulation was he had to be back in his own recliner in less than 48 hours. And I pulled that one off too. We were in New York for less than 24 hours. But when he walked on that flight deck of that ship, 62 years later, after he left it, big tears welled up in his eyes, and he said, son, we won the Fleet Basketball Championship right here on this deck. And that day we spent all day, and he told stories that he haven't thought about in 60 years. And I wouldn't give $1 million for that experience and those stories, because I had no idea that we would lose him 9 months later to a stroke. You see, because memorials invoke storytelling, just like this gentleman said. And because we're not telling the stories, we're losing our heritage of pride, because we don't take the time to tell those stories. Memorials invoke honor. My grandfather would tell me that there is a pride that you have when you serve your country that is second to none. And he would pop out of that recliner, snap to attention, and raise that salute to his brow, and you could see the honor behind it. I'll always remember that. And if I could leave one thought with you today, on a day that we break ground on this memorial, is that you take time this Memorial Day to make your children and your grandchildren put their phones down and turn off that Fortnite game long enough. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Make them put their phones down long enough to hear your stories. The good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly. Our veteran population of 192,000 will soon turn to 178,000 in just 10 short years. You know, our guys with the 155th Armored Brigade Combat Team, over 4,000 of them are coming back, many from their first deployment, and they will have stories to tell you. When you pass this memorial, whenever it's built, take a minute to reflect on these names. These are your neighbors. These are your classmates. These are your church members, and even your family. Let their legacy live through the conversations that we will all have in their honor. In my bedroom, there's a riverbed rock that signifies one of the most important events in my life. And every time I see it, I reflect on the goodness that God has given me. And I pray that when you see this memorial, that you will pause and be reminded of the commitment and the sacrifices that these names will represent, and the freedom that comes with that sacrifice. God bless you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Dusty, and we certainly appreciate you coming over today and sharing that story with us. That's really, really neat. I've been to New York one time. I think we were there 36 or 48 hours, but I was ready to get back to Decatur, Mississippi myself, so I can understand where your grandfather was coming from. Our next guest speaker has come over to visit with us today. Comes from the 186th Air Refueling Wing in Meridian, Mississippi. I had the pleasure of serving over there for a little over 25 years. It was a very, very rewarding and part of my life that I'll never forget. But Colonel Britt Watson came along after I left, so I never had the privilege of serving under him. My wife currently does, so she says some good things about you, sir. Believe you me, that's not an easy accomplishment in itself. So, but our next guest speaker will be Colonel Britt Watson. He's the Vice Commander of the 186th Air Refueling Wing out of Meridian. Colonel Watson.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. I tell you what, you talked about the 186, and I'm going to go off script here a little bit. I have really enjoyed my time. You know, I'm the young guy at the 186. I've only been there 10 years. You know, most people have been there 30, 35 years, it seems like. But what I have been able to do both there with working with some fantastic people. What I've been able to do, whether it's serving our country and the different platforms that have come through there, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I love working out there primarily because of the people. But I tell you what, this memorial is a wonderful thing. My hat's off to the American Legion for doing this, for all the people that go into this. It's not just one entity. You have all these bureaucratic hurdles to get through. And so we have the city of Decatur, the county, all of them working together to make this happen. And I think it's a fantastic thing that we're doing here. So my hat's off to you. If I can say anything, I want to speak on behalf of the veterans. Thank y'all for doing this. I think this is fantastic. Every time I come up to Decatur, I came from a small town of about 2,000. And every time I come up here, I go, man, what a great little town. And if I can convince my wife, I think this might be one of the places I love. I did not grow up here in Mississippi, but I've always been impressed with the patriotism of this state. We have a great state, and it supports veterans extremely well. Just to highlight some of the things that this state has done, recently the state legislature approved matching funds to build another 100-bed veterans home on the coast in an area that doesn't have any. This will make Mississippi have one of the highest per capita beds for affordable elderly assistance to many veterans. Additionally, we've got these beautiful state cemeteries, one's right down the road, right on the interstate. You drive by, we take care of our veterans well, and I love that about this state. And when I go and I talk to people from outside of Mississippi, I say we live in a patriotic state, and we care for our people. And so this is just one small example of what we do here. Within my organization, the 186, I counted up, we've got 85 people from Newton County and from the surrounding areas. Now, if you had asked me, I would have thought there were more than that. Maybe it's just because of their larger-than-life personalities. Leanne. But no, or maybe it's just because I work with a lot of them. But I have met some fantastic people from this county. And when you look at the number of people I work with, it's obvious that this is a very patriotic area of the country. I've had the opportunity to serve in 3 of our 4 military services. I started off in school in the Navy. I was commissioned into the Marine Corps, and then I transitioned into the Air Force. And there's a lot of differences, whether it be the uniform, whether it be the way we talk, the things they do, the way they act. But I have always noticed that there's something very similar in the Corps. It doesn't matter where you go, there's a mettle there. Their willingness to face their fears, their willingness to go out and serve their country and do what's important. They're willing to place their lives on the line, and they do it for their country, but they also do it for their family. They do it for their friends. And I think this is a wonderful strength to behold. So I feel like my purpose up here is to speak on behalf of those that are in the military, those that are veterans. And I just want to say to y'all, thank you. Thank you for remembering their sacrifice. Thank you for remembering their dedication. Thank you for doing these little things right here that point to a better thing. We live in a world where we glamorize celebrities. We glamorize sports. We glamorize what's on movies. We glamorize what's on TV. But this thing right here, this glamorizes what's really important. The people that are willing to lay their lives on the lines and do that. So for all the veterans out there, I say thank you for that. Thanks.
I didn't know if you want to say a few remarks.
We just wanted to make sure that we emphasize the coordination and cooperation we've had for this event. Johnny's worked with many agencies. In fact, we talked to so many organizations. We forget sometimes to thank those that have really helped out, and we did leave off a couple, and that was the Newton County Board of Supervisors and the Mississippi Department of Transportation has also stepped up and been a key player in pulling this off, and we do appreciate that. I think we have closing remarks. Mr. M.L. Henley up next.
First of all, like I've already stated, I thank God for a beautiful day today. Thank the Lord it's not pouring down rain, it's not freezing cold. Even though we did have more wind this morning, putting up the canopy and getting ready for this. But anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today. This is a Newton County Veterans Memorial Park. We need each and every one of you that has family members or friends, relatives that have served, that have worn a military uniform, that has lived prior to their service, during their service, or after their service, has lived in Newton County and paid taxes. You qualify, or they qualify, to purchase a brick. This is the upcoming, our upcoming Father's Day, not too far off, and spread the word around. Maybe your kids. I've asked mine to buy a brick for me, in memory of myself, or in honor of myself, or I'm not dead yet, but anyway. Anyway, to me, that would be about the best present that they could give me, would be in honor of me and buying a brick. Think about that, pass that along to others. We want to invite each and every one of you up to the hut to enjoy refreshments and help us in getting this park built, and so that we can honor our veterans. Right now, I believe there's approximately 2,300 veterans here in Newton, Mississippi living. I don't have any idea how many is deceased, but we got one brick for every veteran here in Newton County. We can fill this park up the way that we hope. Thank you once again. May God bless. Make your way up to the American Legion hut for refreshments. Again, thank you for coming out.